And welcome to another episode of the Indie Spotlight. Tonight we have an awesome episode. Today we're going to be talking with Tonic Mole, the creator of Saving the World #2. The adventure continues. So we're very excited to sit down with you and talk to us about you today. So without further ado, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little about who you are.
My name is Tonic Mole, and I am a comic book artist and writer. For a long time I did kind of more underground type stuff, and always back and forth fan of superhero stuff. And so given the advent of crowdfunding and digital comics and all that, I decided to take this concept I'd worked on for a long time around the superhero genre and kind of run with it. And so that's what I've been doing.
Nice, man. Yeah. And how did that first initial run go for you? How did you find the first issue kind of process? Was it enjoyable for you?
It went really good.
Nice.
Because like a lot of nerves, because there's so many things from that could go wrong, like with just the crowdfunding, figuring all that out, and then printing, and that's not including actually writing and drawing an entire comic. So all the business stuff, and I remember I was setting the $500 goal, and I was like, if I missed that goal, this would be embarrassing. But it's a lot easier if you kind of do a good market and stuff. Those low goals are not too bad, and so it went pretty good. And I already had the comic. I never have a comic. I say I have it done, and I technically do, but that's not a thing until it ships. So
right,
I'm constantly, like now, I'm still constantly working, taking out, adding pages and stuff. I generally just make certain that within 10 days of a campaign started, it can be sent to the printers.
Wow, that's fast turnaround.
Yeah, if all else fails, mind you, I wouldn't want to send that version, but I'm ready, just in case, because you never know it's out. You break your arm, you're like, oh, that sucks. So I want to make certain, that type of deal. And so but then I'm working until the very end deadline, because refining the first issue, I had a script. I had several scripts, and I had drawn and written it was about 20 page, like 10 years ago when I first come up with the idea, and then it just sit in a folder.
Really?
And I had dug it back out, and I had a brand new script that was a lot more what's the word, more elaborate when it comes to writing. So it essentially, that the events of the first comic took place over about 3 issues, and so it explored the daily life of Kierra, and all led to that point to where she wakes up naked in the park. And then the second issue follows Nora throughout the days leading up, and then she wakes up naked in the street. And
not a great place to be.
Right, exactly. And it's not until the 3rd issue that you see a costume. And so it was
interesting. Yeah,
a slow burn that really and I loved the script. I loved it. It showed Kierra at work for a larger section, so you got a lot better idea of who all the characters were. The only problem is, in crowdfunding, selling a person 1/3 of an origin story, it wasn't going to work. And time was of the essence. Everything had culminated to where I didn't have time to sit there and start from scratch and redesign and rethink everything. So I pulled that comic I had done 10 years ago, and I was like, this ain't that bad. And so I just took a picture of the physical pages with my iPad Pro that I draw on now, and basically traced them, inked them in a way, and re-inked all the pages in the iPad Pro just over the top of a photo, and redid those 20 pages. And then I went back. I think I added uh, 7 or 8 pages because the pacing was all off. And then I rewrote the entire, like all the dialogue was scrapped and replaced. So it was a real, that issue was a crazy, I was just kind of like hoping people would give me a pass, because I like scripts to have like a 3-act type arc, you know? So I have my intro, then I have the conflict and all that, and then you have the conclusion. And I like this smooth transition. Well, I was trying to get through the origin and introduce all these concepts, and I already had this artwork that I was kind of married to some degree. I could add pages and stuff like that, but, you know, roughly it needed to still be based on that structure. And I finished it. I was like, I like it, but boy, it's, you know, I just got to get this to work, and then, you know, and build from there. But and you're your worst critic. So most, you know, a lot of the customers seem to, yeah, they really liked it. They weren't nearly as critical. Not even the critics were as critical as I was. So I was like, all right. And so, you know, then I started fresh with, I've written several scripts over, well, since that 10 years. I've been writing and developing the overall universe and all that type of stuff. And of course, I mean, even all the scripts I have, I throw them out and then rewrite them, but I still at least have the skeleton of the stories. And I'll do that until I publish it, and then I can't throw it away and redo it. But so, yeah, this new issue is, you know, me getting to start refine a script and then, you know, draw it kind of the right way, with a lot more, not more time. I got less time now than ever, but I was able to get that script refined the way I wanted. And then of course I refine it the whole time. I mean, I evidently will never let my script rest, because even now I'm drawing it, I'm rewriting the thing as I go. But I kind of default to the script if I don't have a better idea while I'm drawing it. So I always have a backup plan, but I do like to change things. And so I'm really proud of this one, and I'm proud of the first one too, but maybe more the second. I don't know. But I'm excited to see how people react to this one, where I got to all the art is because one of the critics said, "Oh, the art's inconsistent." And that is very true, and that's because one of it was drawn by a 29-year-old tonic mole, and the other was a 39-year-old tonic mole. And I inked all of it, so it kind of helped make it a little cohesive. But I was a lot more into semi-realistic. You know, I didn't do the big ears or the cartoon as much faces back then. And so, yeah, that's when the more semi-realistic they look, it was probably the older art. And then the more cartoony is what I'm doing now. So, and my style, I can't control it. It just evolved. So I can't reproduce what I did 10 years ago. So I had just do my style that is default now and go run with it. But so, yeah.
That's funny, man. Now, I wanted to bring this comment up from the chat, because Jeremy says people should read Saving the Universe Before Saving the World. There, I said it. Now, is that another project that you worked on then?
Yeah. So.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I did 2 comics for my first run. Did not intend to, because I was like, well, if I can just get this Saving the World #1 out. But then I felt I needed a stretch goal, and I had already had Peter Palmati working on a little short 5-page deal that would expand the universe. And it was, I think it was 10 days before the campaign ended. And it was going to be just a little short that was just those 5 pages, and that was going to be the ash can. But then I was like, people won't get it. They won't get it. They'll read Saving the World and think this is a comedy only. They won't get that this is. It's kind of like if you read your introduction to the Marvel Universe was Deadpool, right? And you'd go, oh, this is a comedy joke deal. It's like, no, the rest isn't. It's different. All the tones are different. And so that was my worry was, man, I'll ship this Saving the World #1. Everybody will think it's a just jokes that's only funny. I need to give them some hint of what this really is. And so I had tons of scripts already. So I was like, all right, I can introduce Lily and Wet Wet. I can draw those 8 pages in 8 days, and I can do that. And then I was like, so I said, Tony Sizzle, I was like, we got 8 days. Can you draw 8 pages? And he said, no problem. And so, but that script was real rough. I just had like some of the internal narrative, the narration. I didn't have any dialogue or description of what's going on, just real rough. And because I wrote it on the way home, because I had the idea, but I never wrote it down. So I was on my way home from work, but we had, 7 or 8 days. So like I was out of time if I wanted him to be able to draw it, because he had to get it back to me so that I could then letter it and format it and get it ready to send to print. And so anyways, I sent him just this rough outline idea, and he just fleshed it out. So like my script, the script he worked on was Gypsy, and she's a fortune teller that during so the whole Saving the Universe verse, the saving verse, there's this one night in which this event happens to where some people randomly wake up somewhere naked, but they also have superpowers of some sort. And it varies. Some are actually, it mutates people. So some people might have like an extra finger on one hand, whereas others will have superpowers. So it varies wildly to a great degree. And so she's a fortune teller. It's a little cliche, but she gets this super sight from the event, and she can see future, past, alternate timelines, all these things all at once. Generally, most things. There's a few things she can't. And I really just had her talking about that. And I had some, like, the action was just like she sees this happening and all of this, but I didn't really have it nailed down. And he come up with the idea that she has to let this kid get hit by a car. Well, she kind of makes that happen. He made her a little more Dr. Manhattan-y, where she kind of makes that event happen. So he'll drop the ball, and she picks up the ball and throws it into this motor for this crane. There's this guy attacking this woman in an alley, and the crane shifts, and this piano falls and kills him. And so the idea being that she can, anyways, he come up with the whole thing. There was no piano, no ball and the little kid and stuff. I think I had it where there was a kid that gets hit, but the original script idea was just that she couldn't prevent it because she knew the things that would happen from that event, that the mother would go on and do these things. And he kind of had this more complexity of a puzzle type deal, which I'd wanted, but I didn't have time to write it. I was like, I can't figure out what type of, it's kind of like writing a mystery. You can't really just write a mystery off the top of your head, because you got to figure out, okay, I'll have this person do it and backtrack it. And so I was like, too complex for 8 days. Well, it wasn't 8 days. I had like 2 hours to figure it out. So he actually hammered it all out, and it worked out really good. But back to the question. I'm sorry. I kind of feel like you definitely want to read them. And that's where I was conflicted, because I couldn't afford to just continue giving it away, because it was supposed to be like 5-page ash can. It ended up of entirely other comics. So it's a 20-page, for normal comics, it's a 20-page comic. That's a full comic. And I gave it away for free on Indiegogo as a stretch goal. And that was expensive, but it was really important though, because that was one thing that bothered me, that people weren't going to get it, that this universe is vast and complex. And even though the main characters, Kierra and Nora, are funny and it's all, there's a lot of comedy there, that's not really the whole thing. But and so I got to ship that out. But if you read it before or after, almost the same time. So like if you read it before, you got to read straight through, because that I don't know. I really honestly don't know, because I feel like knowing the event that's in Saving the World, that how the two girls get their powers. Well, I don't really. They just wake up naked, but you get the idea. Something's weird going on that night.
Now, can I ask you? Does the universe, does that take place before Saving the World part number 2?
It takes place, after.
Most of it after. Oh, really? Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So, because the Saving the Universe number 1 takes place. Mostly on that night. So it's the night they get their powers is half of the comic, and then it's the like a week or two, about a week after, to where Kierra becomes she puts on a superhero suit and all that, and there's one little deal. And so it's basically the day of and the week after. And so basically Saving the Universe mainly takes place that week after to some degree. Most of it. Well, to be fair, the timeline's complicated. It's not complicated. It's so Wepawet, the Lily and Wepawet story, which ended up kind of being the more popular thing, which is semi good, because I have a lot of stories to tell. Like I want to do a Lily and Wepawet solo, but I didn't know. It's really weird because it plays with timelines and time travel, and I didn't, not really time travel, but something along those lines. So I didn't know how much people would want to follow me on that, because it's you got to think about everything. So Wepawet exists. He's a sentient black hole that exists at all times. In all timelines at all times. So every point in time, he's existing all the time. So in that short story, he's talking about anybody watching this has already read it, so it's okay. So he shows up in this girl's bedroom, and she's all screaming because he's kind of this demon looking thing, and he's explaining himself to her and all this, that what he is, and that doesn't comfort her at all. And suddenly she starts remembering him as if he's been there her whole life. And that's because the first thing he ever did was wake her up. He then, his other copies that exist throughout time are at that same time talking to her as a little girl and all the way growing up, because he exists in all these frames of time all at once. And so she's suddenly remembering knowing him this whole time and all that stuff. So I have lots of stories because I love playing with the idea that you only, in the comic, you only get to see this one iteration of him, but he's existing, altering time throughout and all that at the same time. And so it's fun to try to write, but I was curious whether it was as fun to try to read. And either people really liked Lily because she's a hottie, which is fine, or they actually like the story. I don't care which which it was, but for either reason, they said, "Hey, I like that." So, but as far as whether you read one before the other, that is complicated because they mainly take place during or after. But I think it's fun either way you flip it, because both those first issues, I feel like you get enough to get a grip on what's going on roughly. while completely being lost about the greater overall story. And the universe certainly throws a monkey wrench in, where I hint at lots of things, but I don't tell you anything. Just that you know something's up. You're like, I don't know what's going on, but I know it's weird.
Now, I just wanted to say I want to bring this up from the chat while I bring the campaign onto the screen, so we can all start taking a look at the campaign itself. But Jeremy says Tonic needs to answer a question. Did Han shoot first?
Yeah, he did. You should have.
Oh, that's too funny. You heard it here first, folks.
That's right.
So here we have the campaign page, and I just wanted to kind of go through this, check out what kind of perks and stuff you have to offer, and all that good stuff. So currently you're at $795 pledged of your $500 goal. So awesome job on making your goal. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Currently 14 days to go, so still a good amount of time left to get more backers. So it's awesome to see that, you can still get some more people reading that comic, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and Indiegogo, I'm at 914. It Kickstarter was outpacing it forever. And then, there's that middle plateau that no matter how many times, I'm going to assume no matter how many times you crowdfund, that first week, you really just crank them out. And then for the middle 2 weeks, flipping nothing. And so I've been just crawling up. I think I reached 700 for both in the first week, and then they just kind of creep along until the end. And then all of a sudden because I'm still ahead of number one on both campaigns. At this time, I was maybe at 500 or something, and together they ended up getting to 2,600. So I'm hoping on the same thing. It don't totally matter because I got lots of plans on moving forward and stuff like that. So whatever I get over the 500 or whatever, because I really only needed the 500 from one of them, to be honest, so I could get my print run. But and so it's still doing good. But yeah, this plateau, I don't know if I'll ever get used to it, because I told myself this whole time, no, don't worry about the plateau in the middle. It'll be fine. Mm-hmm. And then I hit the plateau. I'm like, I messed up. It's not going to be good at all. But
yeah, I imagine it's kind of a roller coaster with these things, man. It's a lot of ups and downs while you run a campaign, I'd imagine. But it's awesome. I mean, this is obviously, like you said, you do multiple campaigns. As we were talking earlier, you do multiple campaigns for issue. So clearly, you've been coming back and finding success with this series.
So far so good.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah, and and it's it's there's so many cool things about being able to crowdfund that. It's both digital printing because you can do low print runs, but also the crowdfunding so you can actually distribute it. And these were things that, when I was younger, I'd photocopy my comic and hand it out to people, but there was no way to get it out there and no way to print it because the minimum print run back then, I think, was 3,000.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's though you're talking $7,000 or $8,000 was the minimum to get your comic printed. And, digital really mixed that up. But also, I had, Jimmy Palmiotti bought the first issue, and his brother did it's because his brother did the Saving the Universe, that short in Saving the Universe. But it was really cool because, him and his wife are like idols of mine. Amanda Connor, my art, certainly pretty heavy influenced by her. She kind of opened, like seeing her art made me relax with the car. I was always trying to push more realistic.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
which is hard with emoting because it's a comic, and so you really got to exaggerate. But I'd refuse to, and I would just kind of try to do this. What it ended up looking was my art was always stilted, my interiors. Like a little mannequin-ish on the face and stuff. And once I saw her Power Girl run, and she just goes toon. So the face is very animated, kind of cartoony and stuff. And then, manga is the same way. It's serious stories, but they really let that emotion go to where you're pushing into cartoon territory. And look, and just seeing all that, and Terry Moore also, he kind of does that where there's realism, but he's a cartoonist, so he lets it go into that cartoon area. Anyways, big influence to where I really just let loose the past 10 years and let my style evolve more naturally. And yeah, a lot of cartoon came out in that. But my emotion and emotional impact of my work is just 10 times better. So anyways, so those are little, people buy it and you don't think about who your customers are, but you get these type of people and stuff. It's like, that's amazing. I don't have to make money. That is it. So that's pretty cool. That was kind of one of the cool things about the first issue. I wish it was a better issue, but if I knew he'd buy it, I'd do it 10 times harder.
Well, as you said earlier, that was 10 years of more experience from the first time you did to the next time. So, that's artist grows a lot in that time, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely get that. Now, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
So I just was going to say, starting off with the tiers here, we obviously have, there's just backing it because you want to support the project. But the first reward tier is the digital edition. So this one comes with the digital copy of the comic, I take it?
Yep.
Very nice, very nice. I always say you gotta have digital. Some people say no digital, but you gotta have the up there, man.
Oh yeah, if you're not shipping overseas, it's the name of the game.
Exactly. And then moving up, what can you tell us about this next tier?
Okay, the next one is just the normal physical, but I ship digital with everything. So by default, everybody gets digital, and the tiers going up, you'd get a different type of physical reward. So in this one comes with the physical, and of course I always include stickers and stuff like that. I just don't mention them. So yeah, you just get the digital comic, the physical number 2, and then we do have stretch goals, which they're like I think the first one was a sticker and then a mini poster, and I think we passed cards, trading cards. Nice. And so all physical come with those stretch goals, though.
Very nice, very nice. So you don't have to back out a higher tier to get those. If you're getting a physical tier, if you meet the stretch goals, you get those items. Is it
exactly? Yep.
That's pretty awesome. Then moving on up, we got a digital Ketchup bundle. Oh, yep. Very nice. This one looks good.
Yeah, that gets you all 3 of the digitals that are so far: Saving the World 1 and 2, and Saving the Universe number 1.
That's awesome, man. So, and that's Saving the Universe was the one that's kind of that side story, is that right?
Exactly.
Very nice. Then on the next tier, we got the physical Ketchup bundle.
Yep.
And what all comes in this one?
Same idea. So it's the physical of the 3 comics so far, and the digital also.
Nice, man. So you obviously do the art yourself and all the writing. Do you do the lettering as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
The interiors, I do everything. And
wow.
And then let's see, on this, just the covers and just the covers. This time Sashi did the cover, and the first one was Illustrator Monk. I think the only one I've done a cover is Saving the Universe. And then Monk will continue doing the covers indefinitely until he doesn't want to no more. So number 3 will be Monk, and I'm assuming 4 and 5. And then the back cover is Ryan Faust, which he kind of approached me before the first one, and he goes, "Hey, I drew this," and I was like, "Man, it is flipping awesome." So I put it on the back cover, and then I commissioned him to do another one for issue 2, and then I already commissioned him again for number 3. So kind of keeping the tradition moving forward with Monk covers and Ryan Faust on back. But number 2, I'm a big fan of Sashi's art, and she had an opening, so I had her do Kierra. And though Monk is still working on a so my comics there's a main story, and then whatever pages I have left, I just do little shorts to explore more of Kierra and Nora's relationship and world and stuff like that. So like in the first one, the main story was Kierra becoming a superhero and doing her first kind of superhero fighting deal. And then I had 4 pages left to get to 32. And so I did a little intro of what Nora does right before she disappears. And in this one, this is the first time they really encounter a supervillain. And so it's Kierra and Nora fighting this supervillain and trying to stop him and stuff. And then there's going to be a short that's them actually learning how to fight. And so they go to a women's self-defense course. And Monk's doing that. So Monk's not on the cover of this one, but he's helping me on some interiors. So that'll be pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. It sounds like you got a really good group of people you work with, like that you really like to work with and stuff.
Oh, yeah. And I think, it was funny because I met them all immediately, and I've, and I there's a few other people I talked to and stuff, but you got to find out who meshes with you best, and so it takes a little bit of time. It was all the people I first met, so it'd have been I should have just stopped then, but because all the guys, Tony Sizzle, illustrator Monk, and Ryan Faust, they're kind of my go-to for all that type stuff.
Very nice, yeah.
I know I know how long it takes them, and you can, and they'll just do it. Like if I add not a lot of struggle. I just, I say please, and they do it. So it works pretty good.
That's great, man. Now, in the next tier, we have the not safe for work Kierra CGI variant. I'm guessing that has to do with this image over here.
Yeah, that one right there. So here's the deal.
Yeah, let's break this down here.
Yeah,
let's get real for a second.
I'll break it down. So my whole goal for this, my underground stuff was a lot more riskier. It wasn't risky like this, though. It was far more subversive type stuff, so it's hyper gritty, gore, violence, and kind of odd things like that. And I never liked that I couldn't easily distribute, I like the idea of most people being able to just pick up a comic. So anyways, Saving the World was me toning it down, and so but it's also because the tone of the comic, it wouldn't be right if there was F-bombs and all this type of stuff. So I toned down the language, and I didn't tone it down. I just made certain that, keeping to this PG-13 type deal. And that was really my goal. Well, I got lots of messages of people going, hey, because, the people wake up naked, but you don't see them. They're not naked. Well, they're naked narrative.
They're not nude.
Right. They're not. Right. I hate smoke. I have a pet peeve with comics where the smoke covers nudity, because what's that smoke? What is that? So all I did was, and that was for the first issue, I was like, but what am I going to do if I forbid myself from doing that? And it can't all be weird angles. And so all I did was just draw it normal and then break the frame in half and put a gap there. So everything was technically on a frame. So I just break it through the... Anyways, it looked cool. I did that. So then I got a lot of messages, people going, hey, are you going to make an uncensored version or something? And I was like, well, for one thing, I made the art censored. It's not like I drew... Right. I didn't totally draw it nude and then censor it. I drew it censored. And so it'd be kind of a hassle to go back and try to uncensor this thing. and it's not really an erotic comic at all, you know. And that was
Mhm.
one of the reviewers caught on to it, and this is why I love reading and watching reviews of my comics, even when they give me a little bit of gruff, because it's so interesting that when you know what you intend on something to be in there, and then you find out that they might have actually caught on to it. You know, you think that people might not understand the nuance or something. But anyways, that and a lot of the reviewers were noticeable that Kierra and Nora are not like it's not Gen 13 sexy ladies, that the marketing ironically is, but there's they're more real people inside the comic. So anyways, I was like, so then I thought, well, I mean, everybody nowadays is doing not safe for work covers, pro comic artists and all this type stuff. Well, Amanda Connors does not safe for work covers all the time on comics for paper films and stuff. And I was like, they can do it, I can do it. And okay, that's step one of how I decided to do a not safe for work. But then there's a second half to that story. So before comics, I kind of gave up on comics because I didn't know how to financially do it, because this was a little bit before crowdfunding and stuff. And so I got into a ton of other things. So I make mods for video games and stuff like that. And but I also started playing with this program called Daz 3D, and I was doing these 3D animations and stuff. So I was doing all types of things with video games and 3D art and stuff like that. And that's how I made money for a long time, before I was like, oh, I can crowdfund comics. I'll start doing that. And because, well, my love has always been comics, but being able to do it has been a different situation. And so I thought, that's something nobody probably even knows I do, is this digital art and stuff. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to render this 3D of Kierra, and it's the scene from where she wakes up in the park nude. And so I rendered it and stuff like that. And I was like, that looks pretty cool. So it might not be everybody's deal, but it's a variant, so they can buy it or they cannot. And this one, so this one's a 3D deal anyways. And Indiegogo has a not safe for work, but that's just me. I just drew it. It's normal art. And so anyways, this 3D deal is kind of what I did prior, is that type of stuff. And so it was kind of fun combining them. Fun only to me, but humors me. And also address the thing with the people that I probably won't do it again. I don't plan on it, because it was fun for now, but it does, it kind of contrasts to some of the overall tone. I mean, probably only to me though, because I'm like, well, it don't show nudity, so it's different. But I draw very voluptuous ladies, so it's not like surprising I would have a not safe for work cover. But anyways, so that's the story on that tier.
Nice. Hey man, it's kind of a good story, so it needs to be told right. That's funny, man. Yeah, I'm sure that one will end up being a popular cover.
I hope so.
So then the next one we have up is the let's see, what's this bundle about?
Let's see, what is that? Saving the World #2 bundle. Oh, that's just you get both covers. So that one is the digital of Saving the World 2, the physical standard cover, and the not safe for work variant. So if you wanted all three of them, there you go.
And I'm assuming that the not safe for work version is a physical only. There's no digital version of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. And then moving up, we have the Ultimate Ketchup bundle.
Yeah, and I think that's just everything plus the variant. So you get all. Let's see. Yeah. Saving the World #1, Saving the World #2, Saving the World #2, Not Safe for Work variant, and Saving the Universe #1, all physical and digital.
Nice.
And I had originally considered, so I had two variants for Saving the World #1. One was the Sailor Rogowski by Luigi that draws rags, and the other was Nora by Illustrator Monk. And I was going to include those, but then I realized, well, for one thing, I don't reprint the variants, so I do about I do like 50. Just 50 of the variants, and then when they run out, they run out. So people buy the variants to some degree for collectability type deal, and I might not be to where collectability matters, but you never know. So in the future, I'm future proofing for some sort of collectability if that's ever a thing. So anyways, I was like, oh, if I'd have to put like a limit on how many I sell of those before it changes and stuff. So I just decided, just to include that instead of those variants from the first one.
Very nice, man. And it looks like that rounds out the tiers there. So maybe we could talk a little bit about the stretch goals.
Yes. Okay. So for people crowdfunding, here's something I learned on that first campaign. People seem to like stretch goals, but like the first campaign, I had all this stuff I was going to include. Well, quickly I realized that it didn't matter because I didn't really care whether I made money on the first issue because I have lots planned. It's all just about hitting the ground running, kind of, and so then I was like, all those stickers and things you include just by default should be stretch goals, because you'll make the stretch goals anyways, but it's funner, achieving these goals type deal. So I had and that's mainly the die cut sticker. And now the Saving the World trading cards, man, I got the fever because Brian Polito includes all these little trading cards with all the the orders, and I think they're stretch goals too, or something like that. And I was like, man, I could totally do trading cards, just using artwork, artwork I've commissioned, my own artwork, and all this to with information about the character on back, and it would I could tell things that aren't even in the comic and stuff. And so that's what the 1,000 goal was. And then the mini poster. The mini poster is half not decided yet. I haven't decided what mini poster I'm going to do. I have an idea, but I can't say what it is. And I think that is what it's going to be. Then the STW Season 2 trading cards. It's just a whole nother set of cards. And then the new mini comic. I told myself I wasn't going to do an entirely different comic as a stretch goal because it was really rough the first time and pretty kind of pricey.
Yeah, I bet so. Yeah,
it was totally worth it, but still, I would do it again if I went back to there, because Saving the Universe, getting it out was very cool. But and so I said no, and then I was like, well, hold on a second. If you make enough money, then it don't matter. So I did it anyways. So we'll see. I mean, I'm on par to where 3,000 isn't insane because my first campaign reached 2,600 and
nice.
I'm pacing ahead of it. Knock on wood.
Great, man.
I'm hoping for 2,500 to 2,600 where I match the first one. That's what I'm really hoping for. I'm expecting getting a little 2 or a little over. I don't know. I think it's pandemic and all of that stuff. I don't know how it's going to shake out. But I mean, to be fair, if it all froze right where it's at now, I'd still be pretty happy. But so I don't know if it's possible. I think reaching the 2,000 stretch goal, yeah. The 3,000, boy,
we'll see.
We'll see how that goes. But it's a mini comic. So either I go forward and I get this mini comic out now, but if not, you will see the character. So this is a character that's not within Saving the World, and I didn't write it. So it's actually someone else's character and everything.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. and so it's a whole new character and universe and all that type of stuff. And it's, I mean, it's pretty much on the scale of saving the world. It's its own little deal. And so it's a project we're working on. And I was like, man, as a mini comic, we could just do a 10-page mini comic that introduces your character. And I think that would really help prime the well for when that character goes. And so we'll see. I'm really hoping we get there. And then 5,000, which is just ridiculous, but I would print it as a full-size comic book. And we'll see how that goes. I mean, that final ramp up sometimes surprises you, because I was Kickstarter was way behind, pacing way behind Indiegogo on my first issue, and then beat it by $400 or something like that. So really? that last week, you have no idea what's going to happen. And you see that with tons of campaigns. Jack Irons #3. I was like, oh, I'm optimistic. I hope, but I just can't see this.
Right? You know? Oh my God! Yeah, it was touch and go there for a while, for sure.
Yeah, I was like, it's impossible. I don't think it'll happen. Impossible. And then all of a sudden, that booger just surged right past that goal. So, and that is it. You know, you start to panic in the middle, and because you're like, no, it's impossible. Now the question is, does the surge happen because the creator panics and goes on Twitter, or does it naturally happen? I have no idea. Now,
more testing is needed, I suppose.
Yeah, I hide my anxiety pretty good, like online. Nice. Like, I'm full of crap on Twitter, so I'm always like, you almost always see me hyping it up, like, we just destroyed world records and all this stuff. And my tale is probably the more bombastic I get, is the more I'm worrying. So when I'm all like, I'm a golden god, saving the world, on the hips and lips of America, you can go, boy, that guy is worried.
That's when you know you're at your worst point there.
That's right. I'm like, and so, but yeah, you know, that end surge, you got to just trust, you know, have faith it's there, because it always is. And and everybody I talk to, and it is all the campaigns I've been watching, I pay close attention, so I can learn from other people's experiences. And yeah, that surge is always there at the end. I don't know why people wait till the last day. I mean, would it kill them to be ahead? But no, almost never. And it might be because Kickstarter, Indiegogo might promote
more heavily
when they're about to close. It'd have to be something like that, because it comes out of nowhere. And then there's going to, of course, be some people who just waited to see, or something like that. And actually, no, your followers start to get notifications that it's closing early or it's closing soon. So that's probably where a lot of the platform is working for you at the end versus the beginning and middle. And
true,
and so that's likely it. So we'll see. I really have no idea, because I'm quite a bit further ahead than I was this time. And so, you know, in that case, I'd go, yeah, 3,000 is no problem. But I'm prepared for, like, you know, if I just hit 2,000 or something, which would still be awesome, because my goal's a lot further down the line than issue #2. And so, yeah, we'll see how that goes. But so, yeah, that's my stretch goals. I'm pretty certain we get to the 2,000, no problem. And then we see about, yeah, we're almost there. I didn't do the math. I think I'm at 17 something, or maybe 1,800 or something like that. So we'll get there.
And it is nice that you're combining the Kickstarter with the Indiegogo to get to those stretch goals. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, somebody asked me, and I was like, I didn't think about it. Well, I did think about it. It's that I didn't want to mention, because I didn't know which I should do, whether each, because my goal was, for me, I was like, man, if I knew they would reach the two things I knew I was going to include was the die cut sticker and the trading cards that I was going to ship those no matter what. And then I was like, well, at $1,500, that'd be $3,000 combined. for the mini poster and so on and so forth. So I kind of thought, but then I realized that the problem with the stretch goals is I can't send Kickstarter trading cards and not Indiegogo or vice versa. So, and somebody sent me a message. And so I kind of just didn't say, because I was like trying to figure out what I meant also. And so someone messaged me and I was like, no, I mean, it's kind of a jerky thing to do to make them both fight for their own stretch goals. And so the only reason I didn't want to combine it was because I thought it might be confusing. That they can't just look at the number.
Right. I can totally understand that. Yeah.
And then I was like, well, yeah, but I'll have updates. I can update the image on the campaign. So yeah, it don't matter. And then, Matt Krotz, he does that where he does Kickstarter and Indiegogo, but he does it long term to fund like a really big elaborate book. And he has a little pie graph down there showing where all of his money's coming from and stuff like that for the overall goal. And so I was like, well, yeah, so that works. So if they're used to a pie graph, they can look at a little chart where I check things off. So
yeah, you got to put that faith in your backers, right?
Yeah. And, and I could, get the biggest part about stretch goals is you get to announce something, an achievement, and so you can, they're good to keep going. And when you have them combined, you can burn through them, faster and, have these big, and it kind of unifies your audience a little bit. You don't want them to be, you don't want this division in them like they're two different clubs, because they're one. And so when you have them working together, they kind of, it doesn't cause any weird tribal division in there. And so
I kind of like that. I'm not sure. I've never really seen. I know people have done both before, but I kind of like the way you're doing them, kind of trying to push them as this one big campaign thing together.
And I'm kind of doing a lot of experiments, so that's where I'm not too hung up on their performance. But it's just me. So worst case scenario, I could draw my own covers if I had to. So, but I got my expenses are super low. And so I have time to experiment and kind of try new things. Cause in theory, you're not supposed to do, it's not you're not supposed to, it's just people suggest you shouldn't do 2 campaigns at one time. So that you can promote one and be focused and then you move on to the next. But my problem was time. I don't want to do a comic like most crowdfunded comics. I have a very long story to tell with lots of characters. And I even have solos that will be like Lillian Wepawet. I have a Stratus solo in the works. I have a guy who's writing a script for that. And so that's going to be kind of cool. I never worked with another writer. And but then Lillian Wepawet, I'll probably write and draw that one myself. So I have so much content. I can't do one issue every 4 or 5, 6 months or something. It's just impossible. I'll be dead before I get to the big point, my big reveal or whatever. And so I was like, no, I want to move this much faster pace. Honestly, because of the pandemic, I rushed more. I was like, I can get my comic done in time if I draw at a breakneck speed. And oddly enough, it's some of my best work. So maybe I should just really work fast, and I do better. And
you work well under the pressure, it seems.
That's right. If I get too casual, I go crappy. And so I finished my campaign on the 15th, and I was like, man, should I hadn't started on issue 2. I had the script. I hadn't drawn anything. And I was like, should I launch it on the 1st of the next month? So it'd give me 15-day head start on the art. And so I was like, well, if I do a lot of pages, I could have, if I can get to 25 or 26 pages, it'd be just wrapping it up, polish for the next, well, it'd be 30 days because I want to send to print. I'm gonna stop polishing and all that when the campaign wraps, and then send it to print, because it takes 15 days before you can really ship anything out anyways. And so I'll have my comic back from the printers the second the money goes through, and then ship them all out. And so I was like, I think I can do that. And because the pandemic, I was like, timing is perfect. I got nothing but time to sit around and work on this thing. And I was had a little anxiety. And so I was like, nothing better than a campaign. And so I really wanted to have a campaign to distract me and something to do while I'm, locked in my house. And so I moved forward. Now, the thing I didn't think about was it was fine for Indiegogo, but my Kickstarters, because I had to wait 15 days after my Kickstarter concluded, my Kickstarter ended on the 15th. Oh, on that 15th. I'm sorry. That's when my Kickstarter ended. My Indiegogo had ended a month prior, a little over a month prior. So for Indiegogo folks, they're like, yay, the next issue. This is awesome. And my Kickstarter people were like, you're just shipping out the first issue. And because, I had to wait 15 days, and that was ended on the day I'm launching my Kickstarter, both Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I didn't know what to think about that. I kind of felt, I was conflicted, and because I needed to go, so it needed to happen. And so I was like, well, there's an experiment for you. I'll find out how tolerant people are of that type of stuff. And so my Indiegogo people already had their comic. I shipped them right before the campaign. So everything was shipped before the campaign, but I knew it'd be a few days. At least before they got them. So it would be launched by the time they got them. But nobody seemed to care. They were all getting their comics, and it was the first week of the campaign. Kickstarter moved out ahead faster than Indiegogo, I was like, what are they? How is that? So anyways, but I mean, I think a lot of digital people, they had their comic forever. And so all the digital people just jump on in and get physical this time or whatever, and or getting the second issue digital, whichever they go. And so it ramped up really fast. I was very happy with it. I actually thought it'd stall for the first 10 days so that everybody has their comic, and then the ones that liked it would come back. And I know, evidently not. They just all, it seemed to be. I do got quite a few new readers getting those Ketchup bundles. So there's a lot of that. So I might be still seeing some places. Texas is terrible if they're holding the mail in Texas for like a week. I sat there waiting, and it was just sitting there, not going where it's supposed to. And I was like, come on. And so, and that's, I put updates. That's another thing to keep people updated, that the coronavirus is I have no idea what the results will be. I had a guy get his comic I'm in Oklahoma, mind you, and so I could have drove it to their house faster. It got to Hawaii before it'd get to freaking Texas. You never know how that's going to go. But and so I might have more people flooding in that read the first issue. So because I haven't calculated returns or anything like the return readers. There's a few that I know or something, but so that'll be interesting to tally up to see what the return rate is and stuff like that from the first issue, which for crowdfunding, that's tough. Getting those people to come back is really tough. And you kind of learn what you're made of.
Yeah, but it's nice. It must be nice to see those people return, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah, and that goes back to the, reading reviews and stuff, watching the reviews. I know some people that, they get criticized or something because, this guy goes, well, their art sucks or something like that. And they, it destroys the world. And watching and reading the reviews isn't easy because it'll make you insane, even if you handle it well, because
Wow.
it's important to watch and read those reviews, but you can't let it corrupt what you're doing. I feel the best use of them is, do they reassure your suspicions of what's wrong, and or notice something you didn't that messes with your vision? Like, they might say, hey, it came off like this, and I'll be like, that's not my intention. I might need to adjust this so it is translating correctly. Because parts of some things, and you'll get conflicting things. So sometimes you just gotta be cool. Just be like, well, people's opinions. One reviewer liked the internal monologue of Kierra. The other hated it. So I was like, and for me, every issue's different. Does there need to be internal monologue or whatever? But I actually agreed with the guy who hated it. Because for me, I was trying to tell a lot of story really quick because I didn't want the third issue to have Kierra putting on a superhero suit for the first time. That's ridiculous. I want every issue to begin and end within itself. So, like, if you bought issue 2, you're not going to go, what's happening? You just read it. It'll be fine. The more of the saving verse you read, the more it expands. However, you don't need any one can be picked up and you'll get the idea.
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool,
and that's the intent. I could be totally wrong. Saving the universe a little, but it's pretty lore heavy. So there's a little bit to where you might enjoy the pictures, I guess, but it's kind of a little more dependent, which is why it's kind of what its purpose is, as a companion. But yeah, I hope that someone could buy number 2, number 3, whatever, and read just that, because those are the comics I like the most when it comes to superheroes. A lot of my influence when I was a teenager and stuff was actually more Ghost World and Johnny the Homicide Maniac when I was in my 20s, and stuff like that. These black and white, indie to underground, Fantagraphics, stuff like that. Those were my main influence. But ironically, whenever I decided to do a superhero, I was like, yeah, but those comics have an influence on the tone. I want to tell deep character, character building stories about how they change over time, and there's emotional situations that they encounter. But at the same time, there's something to be said about Golden Age. You picked up a Golden Age comic, and you could buy any one of them. Like, you didn't have to buy 3 issues to understand it. You just picked up any random one and you read it and go, yeah, that was good. End of transaction. And that's really what I wanted to try to capture. Now, back then, a lot of those stories were 6 pages long. It'd just be Batman going, there's a Riddler, punch him in the face, and end. And so they would have 3 or 4 stories within 30 pages or so. I can't do that. I can't quite pull that off, but I can do one story in 32 pages that I hope has a fulfilling end. And there's, of course, a massive story arc that spiderwebs out. But I believe I can build that like Legos, where each Lego is a compartment, and I go boop. But you put them all together, you have something big. I don't know, Voltron of storytelling. And so yeah, that's what I'm working on.
Well, that's awesome, man. I think you've got a really awesome project here, and I love the characters and the world you kind of built here. Is there anything you can tease us about the future of Saving the World and the future series from this universe?
Let me see. Yeah. So issue number 3 is already loosely in production, and so for the foreseeable future, you have a lot of Nora's story is really, it's slightly of a Kierra is kind of the main character, kind of, but not at all, because this, like, Nora's story really evolves and becomes this more central thing. And as it evolves, then you'll start seeing characters like Wepawet and all these types of things as their world evolves. So it happens in real time for them, if that makes sense. So if in the first issue you'll see that there's Halloween decorations. It says that it's October 1st or so, and Kierra has already put up Halloween decorations in her window, and so it's October. No, don't quote me on that. It could be October 3rd or 15th. I can't remember what it is. Anyways, it's October something in the first issue. And so each issue, I may or may not say the date, but you'll see that holidays come and go and all these types of things. And so you follow these characters over the coming months, and there's these, life-changing moments and things like that. And so the stakes start to get higher. And that was, someone had talked about, they'd asked me, does this stay on this path or what happens? And it's like, well, it never jumps. It don't have a point where it jumps the shark, but the characters of Kierra and Nora become more serious as they'll always be a little goofy because it's their personalities, but they become more, they are growing into real superheroes, and there will be for all the story arcs, they will all come together in one big culminating thing. In theory, unless I run out of money, but if everything goes well, it all culminates into one big kind of event comic, and because it's fully inspired by DC and Marvel, probably more DC just because that's what I read the most. But I wanted to do it's not as much as a parody as you'd think. I'm taking these storylines seriously, but my only thing was I will not do 50 events. I will do one. There's one big event, and this whole series builds to that climax. And but it's kind of like with DC has Darkseid and all this, so there's this one big baddie or something of that sort that this will all culminate in if everything goes well. And so I think that what I'm hoping is that people can read one and two and enjoy that it's funny and continue with me on this ride, because it gets really weird. But I have to make them laugh before I can do anything else, because that's, it's the roller coaster, right? So I'm hoping people will ride with me up so that they can go down the swoop and everybody go, yeah.
Nice.
And that's been my worry the whole time, that I'll, always worry that I'll lose readers because they're like, oh, well, it's funny and stuff, but I was wanting a more serious superhero comic. And I'm like, well, yeah, but without light, you don't have darkness. Without humor, you don't have tragedy, And so a lot of saving the world, what I hope is its charm someday, is that it's has that humor and broad range of emotions, but I'm trying to set things up in this lighter tone. And it's how life kind of goes. Life is usually funny, people are usually laughing. It's that's funny, that's a joke or whatever. Tragedy is more rare in some places. It depends where you're at in the world. But tragedy, even in places in which tragedy is everywhere, people find the humor and stuff. And so, I find those stories that explore that humor, their tragedy means so much more. It has so much more weight. So that's what's leading up. So that's not exactly a teaser, but it kind of is.
No, that's great, man. Thank you so much for giving us a little teaser into what we can expect, going forward from here.
Oh yeah.
Now we're getting close to the end of our time here, but I wanted to ask if there's anything you could tell people out there who are maybe considering backing your book who are on the fence about it?
Oh, well, I'm telling one thing. This issue ups all the antes of my like the skill put into the interiors and the script refinement and production values and all that. And people were pretty happy with the first issue, and I was thankful for that. This one is a massive leap, in my opinion, and so this would be certainly it almost ideal. I would love to get fans now more than ever to buy the physical, or well, either one, the Ketchup bundle, because this would be the set. These 3 comics is the perfect setup. Saving the Universe gives you the idea of the scope, and then Saving the Universe 1 and 2 give you this somewhat of the tone, but looking in the direction of where it's going to be going. And this issue, I'm just really, I'm very proud of its pacing and storytelling and all that type of stuff. And so yeah, I'm very much very optimistic given how well this issue is coming together. So I think that most people should, I think, be, if they look at it and go, that might be interesting to me, then it will definitely be interesting to me. It's not like it's a secret. I post pages on there. If you laugh, that's kind of good. It's like, yeah, well, that's pretty much the whole thing. There's no secrets.
That's awesome, man. Well, that's great. I love that you're, bringing the humor back to, the superhero comics and still keeping it light while having a good time and keeping the action in there. So I definitely love to see what you're doing here, and I'm glad you've made your goal and are coming back for another round. So please definitely. Oh, you're welcome, man. And for anyone in the chat, please go check it out. We have the link here. I'll put the link back up on the screen so you can go check that out. There's also an Indiegogo. There's an Indiegogo version that I'll go ahead and post in the chat as well. And so there's a little bit of time left on the Kickstarter as well as the Indiegogo, and I believe the Indiegogo is in demand at this point. Is that correct?
What's that?
Is the Indiegogo in demand yet, or do you have any plans for that?
Once it's over. So both campaigns, I think, have 15 days.
Oh, okay.
And then it goes into in demand.
I see. Okay. Excellent. So there's still a little bit of time left in that campaign as well.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, thank you so much for talking with us today. It was very exciting to talk with you, man. And as I said, I really love the project. And it's cool to see another creator who's, I think someone put in the chat perfectly earlier, a one-man show. You're doing all the art, the writing, the lettering. You don't see that as much these days, so it's still nice to see that.
Oddly enough, no. Where did we all go?
You're a rare breed, my friend.
Yeah, no.
Oh, that's funny. Well, thank you again. And is there anywhere people can follow you online so they can check out all the stuff you got going on?
Yes, at thetonicmole.com, at the Tonic Mole on Twitter, and then Tonic Comics, which is TonicComix.com. We got a little store. We don't got much yet, but we're building it. There'll be a little blog on there, so post little updates and stuff like that. And then, so yeah, they can always contact me at my Twitter or the Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaigns. I respond fairly quickly. So any of those places are pretty good.
Very nice, man. So I'll go and post a link for Tonic Comics here as well. And very cool, man. Well, thank you again. I hope you enjoy our time together. And if anyone out there who hasn't backed the book yet, please go check him out. He's got a really cool set of books, not just the Saving the World, but the Saving the Universe as well.
Yep.
So a lot of cool stuff to check out, and trading cards, and even that's not safe for work version if you were eyeing that one earlier. Well, thanks. Well, thank you again, man. Everyone have a great night, and we'll see you on the next episode.